Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes, brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Bank of America, our partner sponsors, Tangram Interiors, Sensiva San Filippo, and the Better Business Bureau. Our event sponsors this morning are Caglia Environmental, Camarina Health, McCaffrey Homes, Wawona Frozen Foods, Central Valley Community Bank, Johansson Transportation Services, and United Health Centers. I am Gordy Webster, publisher of the Business Journal and your MC for this morning. I'd like to start by thanking all of you out there that have registered, as well as our 6 community leaders who have joined us for our 5th annual 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes event. We are again here for the 3rd year in a row, live at the beautiful Tangram showroom at Palm and Herndon here in Fresno. The Business Journal is again excited to host our most popular event with a strong group of presenters. These 6 leaders from the Central Valley's most successful companies will share 10 of their company's internal programs, philosophies, and initiatives, both big and small, that can be applied to any business or organization. So here's how it's going to work this morning. Each of our speakers will have exactly 7 minutes to share a few of their best ideas, highlighted in bold in the program we sent you via email this morning. The event will also be recorded and sent to you after in case you missed a speaker or two. During each of the presentations, make notes, things you'd like to put into practice or share with others. During the presentations, we encourage you to ask questions for our 6 speakers. Please add those in the chat at the bottom of the screen, and we will open it up for a Q&A session once all our speakers conclude. So pour yourself a cup of coffee at home or at the office and view your 60 Ideas digital program, and we'll get started after this message from our presenting sponsor, Bank of America's Market President, Mark Riley. Mark.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Riley, and I'm the president of Bank of America for the Central Valley region. I also have the honor of leading our business banking team and supporting business clients in the Valley from the Grapevine to the Oregon border and over to the Central Coast. On behalf of our many employees throughout the Central Valley, I'm delighted to welcome you to the 5th annual 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes event. This event brings some amazing local leaders and business owners to this podium, sharing their best practices and their respective paths to success. One of the things we all have in common is that we are all called the Central Valley our home. And to this end, and to a great extent, a rising tide will lift all of our boats, and a forum like this brings us together so we can learn from each other. As we like to say at Bank of America, we're better when we're together. So today, we will again hear from some key words of wisdom from several proven leaders in our business community. Ideas and directions such as the importance of thinking strategically and setting goals. We'll hear about honesty, culture, strategy, and execution. So I, for one, am excited for this morning. Thanks to the trust you placed in us at Bank of America, we continue to sit at many of your tables as one of your trusted advisors on your teams, and it's a role we take very seriously. We too are focused on sharing best practices to drive growth and staying power. So year after year, our teams of small business and commercial bankers hold thousands of meetings with our Central Valley clients. We find that frequent communication is an effective foundation for driving the growth that we're all looking for. And during these meetings and conversations, we're sharing valuable insights that we gather from our world-class research platform, and sometimes more importantly, from our clients themselves. Among other ways of sharing best practices, we're also intentionally publishing guest columns on business resiliency, diversity, along with other key points of interest. We know that by listening and sharing, we will grow stronger together. So at the end of the day, we're just simply trying to help people. So I will conclude my comments by asking each of you a question, one that we ask our clients and our teammates as well. What would you like the power to do? I encourage each of you to really think about that question. What would you like the power to do, both personally and professionally? And I promise you, you can and will make a difference. So finally, to our distinguished panel of presenters, I want to thank you each for investing in our local business community in the way that you have today. We know there is a lot of time invested in being here with us this morning. And to the leadership team at the Business Journal, thank you again for bringing us together for 5 years in a row now. We're on our way to 10. You continue to help us grow together as a community. So with that, Gordon and team, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Bank of America. We appreciate the continued partnership together over the last 5 years for an event we feel brings so much value to the business community. All right, it's time to meet our speakers. The leadership of our first speaker this morning is measured in big numbers: 1,000 employees, 165,000 patients, nearly 1 million patient visits last year, 28 health centers and counting, up to 34 in the next couple of years. She is the driving force behind those numbers. Please welcome United Health Center's President and CEO, Colleen Curtis. Colleen.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Ashley, Gordy, the Better Business Bureau, for putting on this event and inviting me to speak here this morning amongst these other honored guests and who I greatly admire. I've chosen a couple of my 10 ideas to talk about this morning, and I'll try not to bore you by being too serious, but leadership is serious. It's a big responsibility. There are many people depending on you and decisions you make that affect their lives in a very big way. I've chosen to talk about building a team and transparency. If you build the right team, the work becomes a lot easier. I believe that relationship building is a vital part of a successful organization. Building relationships requires an investment of your time, but that's another talk. In my executive suite, I use books quite a bit. If I find a good inspirational book, I'll buy a copy for all the executives. Over the years, there are many practical management books that have great ideas to adopt in your organizations, and borrowing someone else's idea is perfectly legal and wise. There's no rule that new things to adopt in your organization need to be original. So on to what I plan to talk about, which is building a team. A few years back, we discovered we were not hiring the right people. I happened to get a book recommended by our Chief Information Officer. The book is The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. He comes up with 3 basic values that are ideal for a team player. Those are humble, hungry, and smart. Not brainy smart, but people smart. A humble person is someone that is motivated by the team goal or team accomplishments versus motivation for self-importance or recognition. But you have to be careful and not confuse being humble with someone who goes along with whatever the team decides or is just insecure. A humble person must be a leader, but must be there for the team and not themselves. A hungry person is someone that's motivated to make change, to make improvements, works hard. They're motivated by the work. They're energetic and get things moving and going. They're good problem solvers and they find better solutions, more efficient ways, and work smarter, not harder. Have you ever heard someone say, "That's not my pay grade. I'm not paid to do that"? Well, at our organization, they will never be paid to do that. A hungry person isn't motivated by money. They're motivated by the work and the accomplishment. I'm a firm believer that when someone is ready for a promotion, or it's because they're already doing the work. It's just management's job to give them the pay and the title they've already earned. As for smart, I'm referring to people smart. Have you encountered that person in your organization that you dread having at your meeting? They continually disrupt, get off topic, annoy everyone. You want to hire staff that are people smart. They work well with others. People generally like them. They're pleasant, professional, and respectful. Others want them on their team. While technical ability is important, I would recommend that the person with the higher skill level is not always the best candidate. The candidate must have the technical skill to do the job, of course. However, the ability to work well with others will actually determine the success of hiring the right person more than the technical ability. I can tell you what I did. I asked my team to evaluate the members of their team on these 3 values. 2 out of 3 is pretty good, but here's the bottom line. And this is what I said to my leadership staff when I presented this leadership training. There's only one thing worse than not having all 3 of these values, and that's not knowing that you're weak in any of them. If you don't know that you're weak in any of them, then how can you improve? So how do you hire someone humble, hungry, and smart? Well, that's another talk. But on to my next topic, which is transparency. If you want to be trusted, you must be open, honest, and transparent. Transparency is difficult for many people, especially people who are not confident in what they're doing. But I've learned personally that by being as transparent as I can be, I have earned more trust than I ever expected. Have you heard the excuses? Oh, they wouldn't understand this anyway. It's not really their concern, or that's all they need to know. Now, it may be true that that they may not understand what you have to say, but all of the excuses will not earn very much trust. In 2009, when I took over as CEO of our organization, the company was in financial distress. The board didn't trust the CEO because they had just fired 2 of them. I knew I needed to make some big changes, and I needed the board support. I made the decision to promise them I would be transparent on all things I planned to implement in the company, even before I did it. And then I would share the bad and the good, the successes and the failures. Now, I was praying for more successes than failures, but I clearly understood that I was setting myself up and putting my job on the line if I told them ahead of time what I was going to do, then went and did it, and then what if it didn't turn things around? Lucky for me, I had more successes than failures. But what I learned about transparency was that even though some of the board didn't really understand what I was telling them, what they did hear was that I trusted them with full disclosure. I had earned their trust so substantially that working together, we were able to not only turn the company around, but go ahead and expand it over 400% in a few short years. I had their complete support and trust. I kept my word to them. And I have now served as CEO longer than any of my predecessors in 52 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. What a wonderful start this morning. Our next speaker has led an illustrious career as an advocate for one of the most important industries in the Valley. If you enjoy eating, you might consider it the most important. Please welcome our first line of defense against misguided legislatures and special interests, Fresno County Farm Bureau CEO, Brian Jacobsen. Right? Thank you, Gordy. Hello and greetings to everybody out there. I excitedly join you this morning to offer a few business and personal tidbits that have assisted me over the course of my career in life. Before I proceed, however, I want to give a big shout out to the Business Journal, their staff, and the Webster family. I've worked for the Business Journal almost 2 decades now, and they are an incredible, wonderful community asset, and they really are an information source for so many local businesses. Additionally, it is a tremendous honor of myself to be selected with this 5th class. Colleen, Ray, Terry, and Scott are terrific representations of the many leaders striving to make the Central Valley a remarkable place to live, work, and play. And I want to give a special call out to our sheriff, Margaret Mims, a nationally recognized law enforcement leader who has been a terrific friend and supportive mentor to me and so many others. She's an inspiration, so thank you, Sheriff. With leadership and business ideas, we all know there is no silver bullet to fix this.
There are dozens of different styles that may work in certain circumstances and completely fall flat in others. What I offer today has worked for me personally, but by no means is an end all. So here are my highlighted tidbits for you to consider. One of the greatest honors of my life was serving as the student body president at Fresno State from 2001 to 2003. My 2 terms shaped so much of who I am as a leader today because of the many who mentored and assisted me during that service. My tenure also happened to coincide with arguably one of the best football teams in school history, with the older brother Carr quarterbacking back in 2001. It was during that time that Coach Pat Hill's "anybody, anytime, anywhere" was getting nationwide attention. Coach Hill's mantra was the push for not settling for good, but striving for greatness. As cliche as it may sound, this really stuck with me. It became ingrained in my everyday philosophy for just what I did. To be the best, you need to run with the best. Sometimes you'll add to the win column, sometimes you won't, but at least you always come out on top by going out with the best. From a business perspective, anybody, anytime, anywhere to me means that you find the time to do what it takes to better yourself and your business. Make the time to meet the people those that have the similar viewpoints with you, and sometimes those that don't. Find the time to meet with those who want to meet with you, and find the time to meet with those that you want to meet with. Whether new, potential, or existing clients, current or potential employees, adversaries or competitors, the media, community members, fruitful relationships and insights do not just happen by accident. We are all busy by prioritizing these development opportunities to pay off for the long term. Anybody, anytime, anywhere has pushed me through obstacles that at the time seemed tough. While that may not be the right mantra for you, finding what inspires you and pushes you to excel is something important to any business leader. And so for that, I say find your inspiration. Another one of my tidbits that I can't stress enough is to spend adequate time knowing the local news. In today's digital age, information and news is more accessible than ever, yet it seems more people are disconnected from their backyard news source more than ever. Read local news, that includes the Business Journal. Sign up for e-newsletters. Keep up with what's going on in your local chambers of commerce, your farm bureaus, your other industry and trade groups, along with knowing who the newsmakers are. Follow local business and political leaders on social media. Be as aware as possible of the current events and hot topics that are in your area. Most importantly, consume news from different perspectives. As the saying goes, all politics is local. And in most cases, I would say the same is true for business. Being informed allows for instant connection to decision makers and business leaders. These connections can be invaluable towards you and your company. While the Valley has grown significantly, with the right network, I still say you're probably only 2 to 3 degrees of separation from just about anybody here. So by building those networks and by building that trust, it definitely pays big dividends in the future. Lastly, no matter what type of leader you are, I always believe in walking the walk. As I said in the written portion of my top 10, I simply boiled down to picking up a broom. I feel that we see less of this demonstration of leadership today, but in my opinion, you can't be ever too proud to do anything as part of your business. Others, including your colleagues and clients, are watching. The adage that actions speak louder than words continues to ring true today. Convincing others to go to the extra mile is a hollow exercise unless you are practicing it yourself. Time for all of us is precious, but too often leaders ignore this area. And I believe goodwill is spread through this commitment. And in conclusion, all I can say is, as I said earlier, there's no silver bullets. You got to try things, you got to experiment, you got to work and really try to figure out what works for the culture of your company, for the culture of your place, and most importantly, what works for you. The best time to plant a tree is yesterday. The next best time is today. So while dreams take time to realize, most never come to fruition without a plan. The shade of tomorrow comes from cultivating the seedlings of today. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to the next speakers.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Just a reminder to everybody out there, we will be doing a Q&A session when all of our speakers have done their presentations. So please add your questions in the chat at the bottom of the screen. Our next speaker has carried many titles in her career, including founder, mom boss, and namesake of her own company. She cut her teeth in the PR world of Hollywood, but has brought her talents back home for the benefit of all of us. Please welcome Ray Pardini Matson of RPM Public Relations. Ray.
Thank you, Gordy, Ashley, the Business Journal team. for having us at this gorgeous Tangram showroom. Thank you, Tangram. And to all the sponsors and my fellow speakers today, I am tremendously humbled to be here. And being in publicity, I'm used to pitching my clients for this sort of thing. So being here in front of the cameras, a little outside my comfort zone, but when Ashley and Gordy asked me to be here, I was tremendously honored because I see the value that this event brings to our community, and I'm a huge fan. So thank you for having me. When I was brainstorming things I wanted to share with you today and in the program, I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur that I know of, possibly more. I've been in the PR industry for over 15 years, and I started my company in my 20s. So I realize I still have a lot to learn, but I have a wide range of experience, and I was trying to think of, what sort of nuggets of advice that I've gotten through the years that have been the most valuable for me. And I kept going back to the advice from my parents, who were actually both very entrepreneurial. And with that, being a working mom and entrepreneur myself, I decided to translate my advice from kind of parenting advice to business. So there's a lot of parallels. I'll start off with this. I'm a strong advocate for working moms. In case that wasn't already apparent, I started and founded a local working moms group called Mother Upload. And I've had the pleasure of meeting hundreds of women through the years, working women. Through that, I found great success in knowing that, as moms and wives and sisters and friends and co-workers and business professionals, that we can't do it all, which brings me to my first idea. We can't have our cake and eat it too. Simple concept and something that we've heard, I think we've all heard throughout the years, but it very much applies not only to working moms, but to business professionals who are trying to juggle their personal growth and their professional growth. So my suggestion to you would be to think about and prioritize those things that you very much want to spend your time on and that you see value in spending your time on, and then create systems and rely on other professionals to help you get the rest completed. So if that means working on a really big proposal for your company and your housework takes the back seat, or scheduling an hour on your calendar for a yoga session or a walk just to kind of mentally fuel you, then make peace with that and know that, and that you won't have any regrets because you're focusing your time on what's most important to you. So a little piece of advice there. Brings me to my next item, which is lead by example. Something my parents would tell me all the time. To be the good example for your younger sister is what they would say. And I think it very much translates to business as well. I have been fortunate that I've been surrounded by and mentored by some very successful business professionals throughout my career. Some business women who have inspired me through their unwavering dedication to their crafts and are determined to get what they want. And so I've taken nuggets and best practices from them and tried to translate that into my career. So when I started RPM, I wanted to create a place where we had flexible work schedules, where we, bounced ideas off each other and were very creative and collaborative, and where we did so with mutual respect and professionalism. And so I try to emulate that every day with my team in showing them what strong work ethic looks like and always supporting them endlessly. That's then created a culture where we have each other's backs and we have a lot of fun in what we do and get our work done. So ultimately, it doesn't just benefit your business, but it then benefits your clients and your customers. Lastly, and finally, arguably, the most important piece of parental advice as translated to business, because of course, as a publicist, I had to put my spin on this a little bit, is the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. I'm sure a lot of you feel like, yes, of course, that goes without saying, but it very much translates to your professional career. Research shows that people are most attracted to brands that emulate their personal interests and values and goals and traits. Think about some of the brands that you're personally drawn to and how the leaders of those companies have shaped your relationship with that brand for better or for worse. Take Sarah Blakely, for example, from Spanx, one of my personal favorites. Steve Jobs of Apple. What was Tesla before Elon Musk? And then there's the recent announcement of the Patagonia CEO who donated billions of his earnings back to Mother Earth. I mean, that is just a testament to putting your money where your mouth is. So, and then there's Kanye West, which we don't have time for all of his brands and scandals, but you get the idea, for better or for worse. So you see the actions of those leaders affect your relationship with the brands that they represent. So in the hostile media climate that we're living in right now, I always tell my clients, and I think it's critically important, the camera's always rolling, you're always on the record, and while getting major media hits in publications, prominent publications like the Business Journal, absolutely build credibility for your brand and your reputation. It's what you do outside of the office that is just as important as in the boardroom. So in closing, I have one little idea that I think can kind of wrap this all together, and something that I share with my clients often, which is show more of what you want more of. And in turn, that'll translate to increased sales, creating a team that's interested and attracted to your company and stays at your company, and hopefully creating a life and a company that you dream of. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray. If you're like me, you are more than a little surprised back in February with the news that our next speaker has decided to retire. But after a 42-year career devoted to enforcing laws and keeping our community safe, I suppose she deserves a breather. Please welcome Fresno County Sheriff Margaret Mims.
Thank you to the Business Journal, to Gordon and Ashley for pulling this all together. This is quite an accomplishment when you think about all of our busy schedules and what we're responsible for. But this is a fun thing for me to do. It's a fun thing to be able to give feedback to our community. As Gordy said, 42 years of law enforcement experience have taught me a lot of lessons. And I have just a couple that I'd like to talk to you about today. One of them is perspective. I learned very early on that not everything deserves your full attention, especially when you become leaders in your organizations, because your responsibility is allowing other people to do their jobs. But when it comes to really deciding what's important to focus your efforts on, I have a quote that I just love, and it was written by Robert Fulghum. If you remember him, he wrote, "All I need to know I learned in kindergarten." But it really gives you a good idea about really focusing on what's important and knowing the difference. He wrote this: "One of life's best coping mechanisms is to know the difference between an inconvenience and a problem. If you break your neck, if you have nothing to eat, or if your house is on fire, then you've got a problem. Everything else is an inconvenience. Life is inconvenient. Life is lumpy. A lump in the oatmeal, a lump in your throat, and a lump in the breast are not the same kind of lump, and one needs to learn the difference." That's a great example about how you need to remember what's really important for you to focus on, and perspective. I did receive some great advice early on in my career, and that advice was, don't take a strong stance on a weak subject. Remember that when you're in a position of leadership, people will listen to you. They'll listen to your words. They listen to what you say. And when you take a strong stance on a strong subject, that's very important, because if you take a strong stance on weak subjects, you just become noise. And you're fighting every fight. You don't need to do that. The other thing really has to go to when to learn to let it go. There comes a time when you've worked so hard for so long on something, and you just have done everything you can do. You've influenced the people you need to influence. You've accomplished the tasks that you need to do. and knowing when to let go and just let God take over. I'm a person of faith, and I know that time comes when you have to come to that place where you let it go. And you just let things happen the way they're supposed to happen, because sometimes that's just the way it is. And you have to be at peace with that. Some things are just beyond your control, and it's not worth the sleepless nights once it becomes beyond your control, and you have to let it go. You remember to put the right people in the right place. You build a strong team, and it allows you to let things go in a better place for you. Some people may think that I get lots of phone calls day and night because we are 24/7 public safety occupation and career. But I tell you that I don't. My staff, my executive staff, let me know about things when they need to let me know that it's going on. But I have empowered them to make decisions. If I were the only one making decisions, they will let me. They will call me all the time and let me make those decisions. But I need to know they can make those decisions on their own and what they're empowered to do. That's very important. I just got back from a trip, and on the trip, I went back on some vacation time, and I visited Graceland. I went to Tennessee, visited Graceland, and I really fell in love with the logo that Elvis uses. And I think it's a good example for everyone of what you should expect as a business leader. And it's TCB with the lightning flash. What that means is take care of business in a flash. That's what you should expect your people to do. Take care of business. You shouldn't have to look over their shoulders. You shouldn't have to make every decision. You expect them to take care of business. So with that, I'll end my comments. I look forward to your questions. And I want to thank everyone out there who has given me permission to do my job, because that's exactly what's happened. It's been very fulfilling. And I know that I've got a team in place that will continue the focus of keeping you all safe. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Margaret. Just a reminder to everyone, once again, we'll be doing a Q&A when everyone is done with their presentations. So please add your questions in the chat at the bottom of the screen. The family legacy that fuels our next speaker is one shared by all presidents of a certain age, probably my age. Who else remembers the days of Hopalong Cassidy fighting the bad guys on TV along with his trusty horse Topper? That's only a fraction of what our next speaker and his family have given to the valley. Please welcome Shehadey Family Foods CEO, Scott Shehadey. Scott.
Thank you, Gordy. From an early age, I was inspired by my dad and my grandfather, who always pushed me to grow. And when I look at God's creation and I see these patterns of growth and maturity and decline, it's propelled me to think about, how do I keep finding inflection points in life to continue to grow? And so the 10 ideas I share in my article around things over the last 5 years that have been impactful for me. Really some personal transformation around my head, my heart, my hands, rooted in the biblical idea of loving God with all of my heart, with all of my soul, with all of my strength, and with all of my mind. And so, unpacking that, I hope this morning to share some ideas. They've been helpful for me in my relationships and my business and everything I'm endeavoring to do. And it's actually been a lot of fun. So we'll start with the head. So the first idea, 3 ideas that I share in the article are really ideas around the head. Today we have more information than we've had in the history of the world. We have access to it. So we don't have an information problem. We have challenges in application. And so one of the ideas I want to talk about is just seeing the true potential and possibilities in everything and everyone, including ourselves. I had the privilege of working with a neuroscientist by the name of Robert Cooper in 2018. And he kept challenging me with this idea of, compared to what, Scott? What am I comparing to? Am I comparing to everybody else? Am I comparing to the past? Or am I truly comparing to what is actually possible? And it stretched my mind, because we have a lot of unhealthy comparison today, looking at TV and social media and all of these external things. And it leads to just frustration. It leads to depression. It leads to joylessness. But a healthy comparison is asking ourselves, what am I comparing to in terms of my true potential, the potential in others, and what's truly possible? And so I challenge you to think about that. What are you comparing to? What are you capable of? What are the people around you truly capable of? What's actually possible? And when we challenge ourselves with these, it expands our vision. It allows us to be creative. And so maybe that's an area that you can look into and explore a little bit, understanding more of what's possible. Or maybe you say, Scott, look, I'm clear. I got a clear vision. I'm focused. I'm headed in the right direction, but I'm still kind of struggling in getting it done. And so I found myself there, really stuck with this big vision, but how do I actually execute it better? And it's hard to go from thinking to doing. It's hard to go from our heads to our hands without really doing some work in the heart. And so the next 3 ideas in my article talk about things that I've explored in the heart, really limits around some feelings, beliefs, and then really digging deeper into my own personal purpose. And so I want to talk about purpose a little bit. So knowing why we're here. So I did some deep work. Another executive coach kind of helped me through some things, looking at what are the passions that stir me? What are some of the blessings in life, the experiences that I've had that have helped? What are some of the wounds and challenges in life that have been experiences that have helped me along and guided me to be who I really God created me to be? And so bringing those gifts, bringing those passions together in a way that's uniquely me, it has been really, really powerful in energizing me and helping me to be more fully present in the world. And so maybe that's an area, what are you passionate about? Where's your energy? Where's your joy? Have you really put that down in words and how you can bring your purpose more fully to the world? And it's always about others. It's always about how we bring that in such a way that it truly creates value and cares for and loves others. But maybe you say, Scott, look, I'm clear on purpose, potential, I see vision, but what else would help me kind of grow? And so from there, it's really looking at the hands. So the last 4 things I share in my article are around the hands. How do we take things and apply them? And so one of those ideas I'll share is just, I do an annual life plan. And so really looking at what is it that I want to accomplish, taking this idea of future retrospection, looking at the end of the year backwards and say, what do I want to have accomplished in my personal life, spiritual life, business, finance, relationships, being very intentional about it, measuring it, looking at it regularly and seeing how you're doing against it. So maybe that's an opportunity. It should be life-giving. It should be inspiring. It shouldn't feel like drudgery, but there is a discipline associated. And it has to be carried out in a way that allows you actually to execute the things that you're really passionate about. So wherever you may find yourself on life's journey, whether you're kind of in this growth area or maybe a flattening area, or maybe you're dealing with some challenges and pains, I really challenge you, look, where are those inflection points? Where can you unlock more of your potential? Somewhere in your head, somewhere in your heart, somewhere in your hands. See the potential and possibility in everyone and everything. Know your purpose, execute your plans with passion, and live this life of adventure in a way that is inspiring into you and inspiring to others. So thank you for the time and the opportunity to present. God bless you guys, and look forward to some questions.
Thanks very much, Scott. As we're approaching our last speaker this morning, just a reminder, we'll be doing a Q&A when everyone is done with their presentation. So please add your questions in the chat at the bottom of the screen. Our last speaker this morning has a big job on his hands, in charge of directing what is probably the biggest point of pride in our entire Green Valley. He just recently celebrated 4 years in a most demanding job. Please welcome Fresno State Athletic Director Terry Tumey, and go Dogs.
Good morning, and thank you so much. Ashley, thank you so much for having me. Gordy, thank you for the Go Dogs. Really appreciate it. Of course, thank you to the Business Journal. It's such an honor to be here with these amazing leaders. I've learned so much today just by listening to them, just like you have. So I look forward to the Q&A that we have at the end. Many people think about my business and they ask, what type of business are you in? They think I'm in athletics. And I tell them, of course, I'm in athletics, but really I'm in the experience business. And they say, what do you mean by that? I say, well, I don't produce widgets. I don't produce any kind of products. So it allows me to really invest and look at things in a little bit more of an interesting manner, a little bit more of an effective manner, an efficient manner. I look at experiences. I look at how people react to different things. So as I talk to you, I kind of have a challenge question for you. What if you approached every day and everyone you interacted with as a client? What if you looked at them and said, what is the objectives of this individual? What are their goals? What are their challenges? And more importantly, what are their successes? How would they define a win? If you did that, you'd have a different perspective, wouldn't you? You look at people a little bit differently on a day-to-day basis. I know for a fact, I do this every day with my staff. And that's what I'm really here to talk about, is talking about teams. I want to have you understand how we approach teams at Fresno State and what our management is all about. What we try to do is create and build people. We create and build what we think is the most important asset that we have at Fresno State. For many people, we hope that's you. And in doing so, we think of it as a very intimate and personal journey, something that can't be replicated. We call this the total employee experience, where our employees are our clients. We want to make sure that they have a fruitful and a very valuable experience. In doing that, we're building confidence in our team. Our team looks at us and says, hey, you know what? I can do this for the Valley. We also are investing in our employees to look at the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective for us, of course, is our students, the products of our institution. We always think of it like this. Think of yourself as a bucket. All right, if you're a bucket and you're empty, can you really invest in our students and their experience? No, we have to fill that bucket. And we fill that bucket every day with your experience. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have objectives here at Fresno State. There has to be a synergy, right? There has to be your goals along with the goals of the institution that come out with what we consider a winning proposition, a winning culture. Of course, that culture is not just taglines or t-shirts. It really is what we're all about. So what we try to do is have an immersive experience for you. We make our employees look at things holistically, look at the business in a different way. In fact, we ask our managers to look at things from the eye of the employee. In fact, sometimes we take a little bit of a design approach. We say, let's look at this from a cross-functional perspective. How about you do this job? And hey, you on this side do this job. Let's see if we can make our team better and stronger. And in doing so, you get to see how the other half lives. It's not as easy as many people would imagine. So when we talk about this and we talk about these experiences, many people think we're talking about coaches and doctors and administrators like myself. But no, this permeates throughout our entire organization. In fact, I think of it in terms of a landscaper. When a landscaper is doing their job at Fresno State and doing it well, think about what they're doing. They're providing a space, a celebrated space for student athletes in our community to come out and enjoy. And they have memories that are tied to the feeling of being a Bulldog and being at Fresno State. Valuably important, isn't it? That creative aspect that they put in the hallowed ground of a field for successes and celebrations to happen. I find that to be a much more worthy endeavor than just planting grass. It's really creating an experience. But in that journey, of course, there's always bumps. And we've all experienced them. You as business leaders have as well. And I would say with every crisis comes opportunity. I think we've all experienced that. So when you have a crisis, how do you approach it? What do you do? For us, we're reminded it's a time to recalibrate. Look back at our core principles and values and see how they operate. See if they're still relevant. They probably are. But is the approach the same? Maybe not. There's always some things that are undeniable. Your integrity, accountability to your community. All those things are unquestioned. But your approach, make it change a little bit. I get questioned on that quite a bit as to why we change approaches. Well, it's quite simple. We're dynamic. People are dynamic. The circumstances are dynamic. The employee that I hired 6 months ago is not the same person that I had prior. They've grown through the experiences that we've provided. So therefore, my approach must change as well. And in staying to that, we don't have to have, of course, a pandemic to reaffirm what we're believing in and look at challenging ourselves. A challenge could be somewhat simple. It could be the loss of that great salesperson that we had. Man, they really could take us to the top, to the next level. but that person left us. Or it could be, of course, losing a quarterback. That happens a lot. We've experienced that as well. Or it could be something good. It could be something where we've had innovation from that new employee or the employee that brought something new to the table. All of these things allow us to reevaluate and continue to move our model forward with fresh eyes. In that, I would end with this. The most important thing for leaders, and as you're growing your teams and building teams, is to be authentic, to make sure you bring the best parts of yourself. No one has to be perfect. In fact, the process is perfection, not the individual. It's very important that you move forward in a very authentic way and show your vulnerability. Show that you're a real person. Your team will appreciate that because remember, teams win. And for us, a team is very simple. Together, everyone achieves more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry. As you can see here, we're all gathered. I want to thank all of you for your presentations today. They were really awesome. Yeah. So we got a lot of questions for all of you in the chat. And Ray, you get the first question.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. As a business owner, I run my company's Instagram. I never know how much I should share about my personal life on there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I get that question often, especially with small businesses where they are running their accounts. I would say a few factors to consider. One is how do you value your privacy, right? So everyone has a very different temperature on that. And social media is a great tool in that it gives you an inside look into the behind the scenes of a brand, of a business, of a person, of a lifestyle. But how much do you want to share? So really kind of taking a look in the mirror and seeing that is the first thing I would suggest you do as a business leader running your own social media presence. The second is what you're sharing valuable to those that are already following you. There's a reason why they're following you on social media, likely because they're interested in your product or your service or have similar interests as you. So keep that in mind when you're posting so that you don't totally go rogue and lose followers or interest in your brand. And lastly, just remember that everything online can be saved, shared, reposted. It lives forever. Even though they say it expires after 24 hours, it can live on. So just be conscious, as I mentioned in my ideas earlier, be conscious of your actions and just know that everything you do is a reflection of your company. So just some things to think about. I think it's a very personal decision, but yeah.
Thanks, Ray. Margaret, you get the next question. Sheriff Mims, we're so fortunate to have had your service in our community. How do you gain the confidence that you've empowered your leaders and that they will make the right or best decisions?
Many times it's by allowing them to make some mistakes. I think all of us have learned by most when we do make mistakes. The expectation is you're not always going to make perfect decisions, but you make the decision based on what you know at the time to the best of your ability. And as long as you're not punishing people for making innocent mistakes, I think that's empowering to them. There's very few mistakes that are fatal, for instance, in the sheriff's office. And the one thing that somebody can do that is automatically a termination issue, for instance, is being untruthful. That if you're untruthful, and I know that, and you've done it, you can no longer work for the sheriff's office. The community trust is so very important. They need to know that we're truthful and transparent. And that's extremely important. But empowering your team to do their jobs, and the longer you do it, the more empowered that they feel. But they also need to know what your expectation is when they're supposed to give you information about what's going on.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Terry, you get the next question. It says, Terrence, what is your one key what is your one key to time management?
I think the biggest key is to make things digestible. I think many times we take on these huge endeavors and we see that, oh my God, this is so big. And we really don't break it down to just some really simple tasks. I think once you break them down, it allows you to move forward in a more efficient manner. And it really makes things a lot easier. So for me, it's always about taking a big thing and making it really simple.
Great. Thank you, Jerry. Scott, you get the next question. It says, Scott, I'm intrigued by your annual life plan. How do you measure your successes and misses? And do you amend that plan as the year evolves?
Great question. Yeah, so you set your measure up at the beginning of the year, so you know what it is that you want to accomplish, and really the measure is, are you getting those things done or not? In terms of amending it, as I look at it, maybe Q1, Q2, Q3, then yeah, I changed some things through the year. Maybe some circumstances have changed. It's not meant to be something that restricts you. It's meant to be something that empowers you to really accomplish the things that are important. So it's got to come from the heart, and sometimes that can shift, and that's fine. But it's creating some self-discipline and accountability around helping yourself accomplish the things you want.
Great, thank you, Scott. This is for any of you. Employee retention seems to be a hot topic right now. What are unique ways you've retained talent?
I'll chime in. With law enforcement right now, I hear a lot about law enforcement having problems recruiting. For our deputy sheriff series right now, we only have maybe 4 vacancies, which is unheard of in law enforcement. And the way we've done that is we partnered with Fresno State for decades to grow our own. We have the CRIM 108 program in Fresno State where people can go and they can actually work with the sheriff's office, and we cultivate them into the culture of what we do. So it's about partnerships. Now we have a more difficult area with our correctional officers. There's 2 different really professions there, corrections and enforcement. A little more difficult in corrections, but with our deputy sheriffs, it's about partnerships, what we're doing with Fresno State and the criminology program there, which, by the way, is the largest department at Fresno State, criminology. Many people may think it's agriculture. Sorry, Ryan, it's criminology.
That's interesting.
Great, thank you, Margaret. Let's see here. We got a lot of good questions coming through the chat. Here's one that's kind of open, and maybe Ryan, I'll have you answer this one. What is the hardest professional decision you ever had to make?
Oh, good one, on the spot. Okay. Hardest professional. That's a good one. A lot of times, it goes to the subject we were just talking about, hiring. Trying to make those decisions, because again, those folks are the extension of you, they're extension of your business, they're extension of so much. I feel like that making that, I think it was Colleen, but you were talking about the hiring of employees and just that process and trying to figure all that out. And again, I'm one of those that I can teach anybody agriculture, but I can't teach them the soft skills. I can't teach them the things that are extraordinarily important to be a representation of my business. And so I take every hiring decision is probably some of the most difficult professional decisions I make, because sometimes you have 2 good choices. Sometimes it's just, a flip of a coin, which one long-term is going to work out better, because you only have so much information or knowledge in front of you, but you just kind of use that information that you gleaned over the years. And really it comes back to, sometimes you just feel it. You just feel it, and you got to go with it and go from there.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, Colleen, we got one for you here. This is a kind of a tough one. How do you announce bad news to your team?
Oh, boy. Thank you. I think that the best way to announce bad news is don't try to sugarcoat it. You don't have to be harsh, but you can be extremely honest. And I think that honesty, as Sheriff Mims just said, that, honesty is just critical to so many things that we do in our life. So I think being honest about the failure or the problem or the result is the most important thing, because then you have the opportunity to understand what happened and change it, do it again, go back to the drawing board, whatever you have to do to turn it into a success the next time.
Thanks, Colleen. Ray, another question for you on the chat. It says, Ray, you have a successful and busy work and professional life and personal life. Do you experience mom guilt when your home life takes a backseat somewhat? And how do you deal with that if you do?
Yeah, that's a real thing. Mom guilt's a real thing for sure. You know, even in the question you were asking Ryan about what's the hardest professional decision you had to make, I think kind of going back to that, it was starting my own business. It's not just a job for me. It's a lifestyle for our family. And mom guilt is real. And that's really one of the reasons why I started my Mother Upload group is I felt like, do other moms feel this way? Like, how do they get dinner on the table and meet their deadlines, you know? And so really just kind of like, essentially, you know, knowing that you're not alone in that, and having a support system is everything. I mean, I could not do it without my supportive husband. That's everything. And so I think, you know, you can't have it all, but you choose where you want to spend your time. And there's absolutely times where I have mom guilt, you know, can't make pickup or drop off, so husband has to take over. So it's a juggle for sure, but we all just kind of do our best, right? So whoever asked that, I'm sure they're feeling that and they're not alone.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
All right, this question is for the group. What is the biggest challenge facing leaders today? We'd like to tackle that one first. It's open to the group. Anyone want to take that on? Sure, there's all kinds of challenges. What do you think of the biggest challenge facing leaders today?
Well, I'll answer. You know, it's a new era. It's a new day. You know, hate to bring up this subject, but you know, even COVID, we learned a lot of things. We're doing much more web and that type of thing, you know, to communicate with each other. Just so many things have changed in our life in the last few years. So I think the challenge for organizations is to adjust with the times. But I've always believed this, and I've said this for many, many years. We're in this new era of technology, you know, social media and all of this. And, you know, it's still new. It's still new to all of us. But I believe that people that come to leadership and they don't forget, you know, that human aspect of everything that goes along with technology. That's where we're going to succeed, because it's still people, no matter how much technology and how much, you know, that we're in this, you know, that's in our world now. So that's one thing.
Very good. Anybody else want to kind of tackle that question?
Well, I think one of the big challenges right now, I think for all of us, is you're just trying to do more and more with less and less resources. And so, you know, we have so many incredible technology tools to help assist us to fill some of those gaps, but ultimately it boils down to you a lot of times are asking people to do more maybe than you did historically, but figuring out, you know, picking priorities, figuring out ways and channels. It's just from my perspective, leadership is making sure that you're working with those folks that are really leading on you for the guidance to try to get where you're going, and trying to make sure those resources are best placed and best utilized to where they're needed.
Ryan? Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions. You know, I'm intrigued by this one. What makes you the proudest of yourself? And I know you want to show off, it's not about yourself, right? It's about everybody else. But, you know, what makes you the proudest of yourself? Scott, you want
to pick me up?
I was looking straight at you.
You know, yeah, it's not, I don't like talking about myself. I think it's being humble, right? I think it truly is about yourself. It's about being about others. I think that's what I really have worked on in my own heart and continue to work on, because there's that ever-present desire for ego and pride to kind of rise. And I think, you know, bringing that back down and being about other people at the end of the day is what causes us to succeed in business, whether it's about our customers or with our team members, or in life about what's really important in life. So, so that's something I work on.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else want to?
Yes, I'll chime in. The thing that I am most proud about is the team that we brought together over these years. It started out, I had someone assisting me, 12 years ago, and now I have a team of 10 officers. I've had zero turnover. The people that I have brought in to our leadership team, I just couldn't be more proud of. They're just awesome people. They're, besides being talented and smart and all that, they're just a wonderful group of people to work with. And I'm so fortunate and grateful and really proud that, I had the good sense to hire most of them.
All right, let's move on to another question. This is also for the group. Is there someone from the professional and personal realm that you look up to as an executive role model?
I will say it's all about mentorship. And I think that's where that question is going. We all need mentors. And when I first started in law enforcement, as you can imagine, there weren't any women role models or mentors that I could look to or could give me advice. And so as a woman, I have to give credit to the men in my life that mentored me and helped me grow and gave me suggestions and advice. And I will always give credit to Sheriff Steve McGarrian for being a great mentor to me. He really personified to me what a sheriff should be. And he has always been, and to this day, I can pick up my telephone and call and get advice. And I think that's important, that you really find people who give you quality advice. There's a lot of people that want to give you advice, but really discernment comes in. What is quality advice? You find those people that help lift you up.
Thank you, Margaret. Let's see, I think we have time for one more question. And Terry, this is going to go to you. And first of all, I want to thank the audience out there. There's lots and lots of questions, not a lot of time. And so anyway, we're going to conclude, Terry, with the question to you. And it says, Terry, your job is filled with wins and losses. How do you stay positive when you're in a period of losses?
It's all about perspective, right? I think that when you're in a period of losses, it's not really that you've lost, you've learned. You've had a difficulty and you've had a time in which things didn't go so well. So it made you a better person, a better actor in what you're doing. So for me, there was never really a loss. Just had a lot of learning to do, which can be a little tough and a little frustrating because we all look for successes to validate our efforts. But if you look at it as a process, you end up getting to the finish line a lot better.
What a great morning it has been. Just a fantastic morning. And I want to thank all of our speakers this morning. There's just so much good information. On behalf of the Business Journal and our sponsors today, a portion of our proceeds will go back to our local Valley Crime Stoppers. Valley Crime Stoppers is a nonprofit organization with the mission to deter, reduce, and solve crimes by funding anonymous cash rewards and through partnerships with law enforcement and media within the Central Valley. So congratulations to Valley Crime Stoppers. In closing, our online voting for the Best of Central Valley Business Readers' Choice Awards started this month and will conclude October 31st. So to vote, go to thebusinessjournal.com and click on the Best of Central Valley Business logo and vote for your favorite favorite Valley businesses. I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. We appreciate that. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you next year. So have a great morning. Bye-bye.